So-Called is sponsored by loveboiseparks.org, which donates 50% of all profits to support, promote, and preserve open spaces in Boise, Idaho. Use promo code SOCALLED for 10% off all your purchases at loveboiseparks.org.
To me, it isn't about how fast and how big I'm growing. Am I able to still enjoy my life and yet accomplish wonderful things?
This is Mark Wojcik, and I'm wondering, how's your so-called career? Welcome to So-Called, the podcast that explores the why and how of work. On today's episode, we meet Jessi Roberts, who has many titles: entrepreneur, boss lady, and CEO of Cheeky's brand. Her new book, Backroads Bosslady, has just been released. When we met, I asked Jessi about her business and what her role as CEO entails.
I have been known to clean the toilets and sign the paychecks, so kind of both.
And anywhere in between. Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about Cheeky's. What is that? And for those who don't know, what is that business and what's that all about?
Well, Cheeky started in 2011, and it was, people always talk about having these vision boards and all these fancy things on it. Mine was pretty much a grocery list. Like, I started this business to try to make ends meet. And we started a little tiny boutique in New Plymouth with a population of like 1,400 here in Idaho. And in the last 8-9 years, we have moved far beyond that. We actually own that building now and the 3 next to it. We are a brand that sells clothing, jewelry, apparel, handbags, all those types of fun, girly things to women who live a rural lifestyle. We typically are in a lower price point. Our customer is the working class, blue collar customer, but I want them to have a really wonderful experience, and I want them to feel beautiful and not feel like they, put themselves in a bind financially to purchase from us. So we currently sell now to about 3,500 boutiques in the United States and Australia, and we reach about 2 million people a week on Facebook alone. Wow. And we are on most social media platforms. So Cheeky's has grown considerably since 2011. But last year we were on the Inc. 500 list for, it's Inc. 5,000, but we hit the top 500. I think we were in like the 350 range. And we had over 1,400% growth in 2017.
Tell me what you enjoy about the work that you do.
Well, now my job is so much different than it used to be. I mean, when I first started Cheeky's, I did everything until I was able to finally get a little bit of help in the store. Now, on this larger scale, the majority of my job is mentoring other boutique owners. I also do the majority of the design and art directing for all of our products that we manufacture and import. We have fabulous designers, so don't get me wrong. I just kind of direct them, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And they take this beautiful idea that's in my head and they make it real, which is difficult, but it is enjoyable and it is challenging. So I do all of the purchasing. I would say probably 95% of the purchasing for Cheeky's, and then all of the art directing for it.
When Cheeky's got started in New Plymouth, Idaho, Jessi saw an opportunity to open a new kind of business in town.
My town is super small. So I had come from a very masculine background. I'd been in the car business most of my adult life, and I really wanted to do something girly and fun. Our town didn't have any of that. We have a Napa Auto Parts. We have a overhead door company. And a couple of bars. So there really wasn't anywhere for women or young girls to go. And having grown up in Texas, where like there is like a boutique or, a beauty shop on every corner, I thought I want to like bring some of that here. And I thought, I'm going to have a tanning salon. This is going to be great. that was definitely not the wisest choice. Tanning was not where it was at. And I eventually, in the first year, I think I ended up selling the tanning beds to buy more retail product. Our retail product was sold out in about the first week that we opened. So I was like, hey, I think I might be onto something. I think people might be more interested in purses and tutus and, t-shirts than they are in tanning beds.
The company's fast growth didn't happen overnight and involved a balance of doing the hard work required and being content with the business in any given moment.
I'm going to get a little edgy here. I mean, Cheeky's is a sassy company. I mean, we are cheeky.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I can't even tell you the amount of boob sweat that is required to be an entrepreneur in a boutique. Okay. I mean, we do whatever it takes, whether that is, printing ourselves and helping fold shirts or shipping. I mean, we ship hundreds of and thousands of packages a day, and it is a ton of work. There is always things to do, and you have to be willing to do what other people won't. And when other people say I can't or it's not possible, then I have to be willing to do that. It can be lonely, but it doesn't have to be. I think one of the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs in general make is they forget how to be content while also being driven. And so I have worked really, really hard to find contentment, even whenever I'm busting my butt. And, we always think, oh, I have to get so big. I have to hurry up. I have to get large. And that's actually one of the reasons that we did not apply for the Inc. 5000 this year is, to me, it isn't about how fast and how big I'm growing. How big of a foundation do I have? How content am I? Am I able to still enjoy my life and yet accomplish wonderful things? I guess there is definitely a balance there, but I think people try to balance instead. Am I only working 40 hours, or do I have this time to be alone with my family and disconnect? And it's really more about like what we're doing right now. This interview is happening while I'm inside of a 40-foot motorhome that I have my kids and my husband with, and we're experiencing really fun things together. But at the same time, they're meeting our customers. We're going to wholesale districts and we're purchasing. So the balance can be, are you able to actually be content in that moment? While you're still working, not am I able to completely disconnect from my business?
Many opportunities come along with success, and I asked Jessi how she decides to take on new projects such as her book and what projects she passes on.
I have to look at what our core, like a lot of people call it a principle. To me, it's more than a principle. It's what drives my company. And that is, are we making a genuine connection? And that isn't just with our customers. It's also with our suppliers. It's with our employees. It's with ourselves. And so there are times when things could be, very lucrative for us, but is it really making a genuine connection? Or is it just a quick, fix? Is it a way that we're going to make money really fast? And most of the time, those are the ones that we turn down. It took us a long time to get the book written. It took me a long time to figure out who was going to be my co-writer and help me. And I'm super blessed with my co-writer. And we are working currently on television. We have, we've had umpteen million different television opportunities. And we finally chose someone, and it was who we felt like allowed us to make a genuine connection with an audience. Were we able to truly inspire and make people laugh and make people enjoy themselves and look at their lives and say, I can be happy right now. I can build a life that I want to live and that I deserve to live. And so that's usually what we use to help guide us.
Backroads Bosslady is not what Jessi calls business boring. It is a candid look at entrepreneurship and how Jessi's life unfolded while she built her career and business. details that are often skipped over in typical business success stories.
That was why I wanted to write this book. I probably wasn't smart to put it in a business section. And it was really difficult because people who typically like to read inspirational memoirs are turned off by the fact that they think it might be a business book. But it was really important that I have both in there. Luckily, the business side of the book is not so like, it's not business boring, I mean, it's interesting, which is great. And I'm super grateful my co-writer helped with that. But really, I just wanted people to have a business book that they could pick up and immediately start using those things. But more than that, I wanted regular people, which are actually business owners. Some will and won't be that read the book, but I wanted people to be able to read what I put into the world and go, wait a minute, this would work at church. This would work on the soccer team. This would work in the PTA or even with my spouse or my children. And I wanted them to have things that they could walk away with right then and start making their lives better. So often I would read business books in particular, and I would be like, yeah, we don't have one of those offices here. We don't have, I have to get the dial-up to work so that I can Google most of the terms that you used in your book. And they use so many buzzwords that most of them aren't even buzzwords by the time it makes it to print, And so I didn't want that. I wanted something that could be, more classic, that just allowed people to say, hey, wait, if I implement this, I could make a real big positive change in my life. Or maybe they could realize that their life is actually fine and they just need to choose contentment. They need to be happy with what they do have, instead of ruining it and running away from it.
And if you're looking for a book full of tales about raising startup capital, look elsewhere.
I wanted to make sure that they knew of ways that they could be profitable or at least happy or have some movement in their life or their business in ways that didn't require going and getting funding. And, I talk to these entrepreneurs all the time and they're like, oh, it's so stressful. We're in our third round of funding and this and that. And I'm just like, I do not understand why that is your business. Is your business only to go and find people to give you money? How is that a real thing? Don't you have to sell stuff? Don't you have to actually go do things? Make something? So it's super confusing to me.
Yeah.
But that's definitely not what my book is about.
Jessi's advice for running any business is not to rush through to the end. Enjoy the process.
I'm looking for that long-term relationship with my customers, my employees, and my suppliers. But I will say this, not everybody's core principle is the same as mine. And I don't judge them if it's different. There are people who their core principle is, I want to sell this business. Their core principle is, I want to just make enough to get to step B. And all I ask people to do is to not rush it. That's the only thing I tell people when they're trying to run their own business. It seems like what happens is, and I've used this analogy before, when we refer to our kids, we would never hurry and rush their life away, right?
Yeah.
So why do we do that same thing with our own lives and with our own businesses? Why not enjoy the naming process? Why not enjoy the book writing process, or the part of your business where you are trying to learn what it takes to get capital and develop new products or test that new market? Those things can be enjoyable. But if you're rushing to get to the end of your business, then you're going to miss all of those important things that you'll only have the opportunity to do once. And it's silly because we don't measure ourselves on how fast we live, so why would we do that in everything else? And that very, very quickly, when you start trying to rush a business, that's when you start comparing to other people. To me, I think you sometimes just need a reality check. It's like, what are we doing? Like, why do we need to have 42,000 locations so that we can close down like every other big box? Instead, can't we make really, really great locations as they come naturally and where people want us and need us? And can we just be ourselves when we're online? And sometimes products work and sometimes they don't. Sometimes we have fires in Idaho and our freeways are shut down. Sometimes we have snowpocalypse and you can't ship for 2 weeks. Like those things happen. But if you are real and genuine, and you're not trying to rush, then you really set the tone for your customer as well. And it just helps.
For you and Cheekies, what's next? Do you have a next big thing or a next thing that you're working on?
So I am doing a lot of public speaking. I am doing a lot of touring and signing books. I would say what's next is over the next 2 years, we are working on the television show, which would be something similar to like a This Is Us. It will make you laugh and cry. And it does talk a tremendous amount about my life and how I even got to this point in my life. Which I think is, like you brought up before, the pain, the past. I never wanted people to put an asterisk next to my name and say, oh, she's so good for a girl who was a victim of this or who overcame this. But, I've had to come to grips with the fact that, like, if I don't talk about that, other people don't talk about it either. And it's important for us to realize that almost everybody that we've run into has experienced grief, tragedy, illness, pain, and that's okay. And it's how we deal with it, whether we can get over it, whether we can love each other through it. So for me, it's mostly just I'm loving the coasting part of this. Like I'm loving building a stronger and stronger foundation. We are opening more brick and mortars, so people actually have a place to go in and shop, which is nice. But everything at not a turtle's pace or a snail's pace, but certainly not at a racehorse pace.
Yeah. Well, maybe borrowing from what you said earlier, maybe a contentment pace, right? It's as fast as you want to go.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What advice would you give your younger self?
Let's see. I would have to say, wear more crop tops because you're not going to be able to later. No. I would probably, gosh, that was really good advice. I don't know if I can top that advice. I would have to say that, I was pretty hard on myself, and I've always, I've had a lot of death this year, and I've lost a lot of important people in my life. I would say just probably to make sure that you are telling the people, tell people that you love them, tell people that you appreciate them, just regular good old standard mom advice I would probably give myself. And I think that would probably be it. Don't stop running. I quit running, and now the thought of running makes me want to die. And so I would probably say, don't give that up. I do think there were times in my life when I was rushing and I was comparing and just really telling myself, hey, you know what? You're doing a really good job. And you should just enjoy this moment.
So Called is sponsored by LoveBoiseParks.org, which donates 50% of all profits to support, promote, and preserve open spaces in Boise, Idaho. Use promo code SOCALLED for 10% off all your purchases at LoveBoiseParks.org. If you enjoyed today's episode, please let us know. Subscribe and leave us a review. So Called is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and wherever you get your podcasts.